Former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. recently canceled his presidency in the crucial swing states and followed up by endorsing Republican presidential candidate, former President Donald Trump. Now, just to give you guys a quick idea as to just how much of an impact this RFK Jr. endorsement for Donald Trump has on this election, I want you guys to watch how CNN just tried to cut him off as he was basically making his speech to the people.
At the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election. They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining what led him to his quixotic quest for the White House to now dropping out and relinquishing the title of Democrat. He had a series of complaints about the party. We're, of course, going to continue watching his remarks. There's a back and forth over whether he's going to endorse former President Donald Trump. We're going to break that down on the other side of a quick break. Stay with CNN.
Now, we're going to talk more about RFK's take on the Democratic Party because let me tell you guys, Bobby Kennedy absolutely cooked the DNC. In fact, I've been seeing in our recent videos tons and tons of people commenting how they were former RFK supporters, but now they're voting for Donald Trump. In fact, RNC co-chair and Donald Trump daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, recently commented that the Democrats are now very upset about this. Check this out.
How important was the RFK Jr. support?
Oh, I think it's huge. And I think the Democrats are very upset about that. And that's great. And I actually think he did a great thing when he came out and not just said, I'm endorsing Donald Trump, but here's why, because the Democrats are a threat to our country. I could not associate with a party that has been in my family and is integral to my family and who we are for my entire life. And I thought it was amazing to see him come out. I think you're going to see within the swing states where he has taken himself off the ballot, the percentage bump that I believe it will give Donald Trump, I think is going to be huge. And I think you'll see that in the next round of polling.
And they should be, because this could very well be the game changer that determines who's going to win this November. Merrill Matthews, a resident scholar with this Conservative Institute for Policy Innovation, who has also studied the history of third-party campaigns, said that the suspension of RFK Jr.'s campaign means Donald Trump will get a little bit of a bounce here. But think about it, guys. A few votes in the battleground states might be enough to swing an election that appears very close at the moment. And I think Kennedy was very much aware of this when he made his announcement, considering how he will basically only be deleting his name from the ballot in the swing states where he believes his presence would hurt Donald Trump's campaign. That means Trump is more or less better placed to capture more of what's left of Mr. Kennedy's support. The Trump campaign released a memo recently stating that Republicans stand to gain. Their pollster, Tony Fabrizio, explained that this is good news for former President Donald Trump and his campaign, plain and simple. Now, I mean, even if I were a Democrat, guys, I would vote for RFK Jr. long before I would ever vote for Harris. But now it's just Trump all the way for his supporters. Am I right, guys? I mean, you just have to hear RFK Jr. talk about the smear job and the lawfare campaign that Democrats did against him to convince you that these are not good people. Now, according to Bobby's recent interview on Fox, his campaign failed to gain ground due to censorship by the media. He said that when Ross Perot ran, in the 10 months that he ran, he had 34 appearances on the networks. Bobby had 2 appearances in 16 months. So basically, he was blocked out of the networks and he was blocked out of the debate. He had no plan for victory. He also accused the Democratic Party of waging continual legal warfare against both President Donald Trump and him, running a sham Democratic primary election that he said prevented him from having a fair shot at the White House. Now, compare that with former President Donald Trump, whom Bobby said had been reaching out to his campaign periodically, saying they had even spoke just a few hours after the assassination attempt against Donald Trump in July. Now, according to RFK Jr., Trump invited him to form a unity government. Apparently, they agreed that they would be able to continue to criticize each other on the issues where they don't agree. But these issues are so important, and they're a way of unifying the country. Those issues were ending the Ukraine war, preventing censorship, and promoting children's health. Now, that's how you know you got the right candidate, when even third-party candidates see him as the best choice moving forward. And sure enough, Kennedy's endorsement of Donald Trump threw a wrench in the news cycle that was previously dominated by Harris, who officially accepted the Democratic nomination at the DNC convention in Chicago only 1 month after Joe Biden withdrew from the presidential race. So you just know Kamala and the Democrats are steaming right now. I mean, just wait until those next polls come out there where we're going to see this RFK Jr. impact on the Trump-Harris race. Because for sure, nobody's going to believe that Kamala Harris is going to be ahead of Donald Trump after that. You know what I'm saying? Hit the like button if you guys agree with me. And if you want more content like this, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, guys. Now, we're not done with this one yet. In fact, we're just getting to the best part, so stay tuned, guys. With what he went through, RFK Jr. could sue the Biden administration for damages. In fact, a federal judge just ruled about that recently. To be precise, the judge ruled that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can sue the Biden administration over alleged social media censorship of his children's health defense charity, which questions the safety of vaccines. U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty in Louisiana said in his ruling that Kennedy is likely to succeed on his claim that suppression of content posted was caused by actions of government defendants, and there is a substantial risk that he will suffer similar injury in the near future. Now, apparently the lawsuit could prove that the government had pressured social media giants like Facebook, X, maybe even YouTube to censor content that it considered misinformation. But the Children's Health Defense, which is founded by Kennedy, says its mission is ending childhood health epidemics by eliminating toxic exposure. But critics in support of Joe Biden and now Harris have called the Kennedy charity anti-vaccine. And with Bobby Kennedy's case, Judge Doughty said there was direct evidence that the charity's censorship had been linked to the government. Let's see how the Democrats like a taste of their own lawfare. Now, you gotta admire Bobby Kennedy here, because despite his own personal ambitions, he chose to suspend his presidential campaign and endorse former President Donald Trump for the presidency. But perhaps the hardest thing for him to do would be the most malicious response coming from his own family. For darling to follow his conscience, Bobby was condemned by his siblings in a public statement promoted publicly by his sister Kerry Kennedy and posted on X. So Kerry, who dropped Cuomo from her name after her 2005 divorce from Andrew, was really the main critic for the Kennedy family. She basically accused Bobby of betraying the values that our father and family hold most dear. Now, I think it's worth talking about those values Kerry is referring to here, because Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce wrote a whole open letter responding to Kerry's allegations. In the letter, she really goes to town on Kennedy's family, pulling no punches about their controversial history and how they've handled controversies in the past. Bruce lays out a laundry list of grievances against the family, mentioning everything from the questionable establishment of our family's wealth, the treatment of Marilyn Monroe, the general womanizing, the abandonment of Mary Jo Copenay to her death, all the way to allegations of rape. She said that despite all of this, the American public has remained loyal to the Kennedy family, driven by a mix of sentimentality and grief. But what really ticked Tammy Bruce off was the moment one of their own acts on his conscience for the country. This attempted to throw him to the wolves and publicly condemn him. He supported Donald Trump and honestly believes that he's the right thing for this country. And for that, the Kennedy family treats him as some sort of pariah. That's why Bruce in his letter calls them out for their hypocrisy, noting how they've historically protected family members who have done much worse, yet choose to condemn one for his political stance. This, to Bruce, just goes to show how deep and disconnected and a lack of genuine empathy with everyday Americans who struggle with real issues like worrying about having enough gas to get to work, or whether or not they can afford eggs this week, if you'll be safe walking in your own neighborhood, or if your kid will be safe in their urban public school, or even if they know how to read and write while collecting a diploma. And she didn't stop the criticism there. She also accused the Kennedy family of merely performing acts of public service and civil rights rights work as a form of virtue signaling, meanwhile failing to address or even understand the core issues that plague ordinary American families. And so this is why Bruce challenged them to truly make a difference rather than continuing to contribute to the problem. Toward the end of their letter, she shared how she was in solidarity with Bobby Kennedy. She appreciates that at least one member of the Kennedy family has seen the plight of the common man and has had enough of the fear and hopelessness assigned to us for generations. And so that's why her rallying cry was to support Donald Trump and those who refuse to passively accept what they see as the decline of our country. And together, we will fight, fight, fight. Now, as for RFK Jr., his future is only looking brighter from here on out, especially with a Donald Trump administration. Offering insight into this is top Donald Trump supporter and tech multimillionaire Vivek Ramaswamy. He didn't exactly get into the specifics of it, but he did suggest that Bobby Kennedy could have a hand in crafting U.S. pandemic policy. According to Ramaswamy, RFK Jr. has been thoughtful on a number of issues, particularly on COVID policies. So the failed COVID policy is something that he has been particularly incisive about and insightful about. And so a lot of that requires rectifying those wrongs. He pointed specifically to the mandates that force military service members to be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 or risk being discharged. So according to the Tech Mobile, some of those errors related to COVID policy and rectifying past wrongs is somewhere that he could imagine a guy like RFK Jr. being pretty helpful there. I mean, former President Donald Trump himself called Kennedy brilliant and very smart and said before that if Bobby is thinking about getting out, certainly he'd be open to having him in his administration. For real, guys, a Trump-Kennedy tandem is a force to be reckoned with, and you can bet that the Democrats are just quaking in their boots, just planning how to respond to this. What do you guys think? Are they going to replace their candidate again to try and refresh the news cycle yet again? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. We'll make sure to revisit this in a future update, but hey, don't go too far, guys. I have another video lineup for you guys right here. This one is about disgraced CNN host Roland Martin being confronted by a Black Lives Matter activist in the DNC. And the man couldn't do anything but hide behind a woman. Just goes to show you what kind of people these guys really are, right? So definitely check that one out after this one. And hey, don't be a stranger, guys. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our future updates. For now, thank you so much for watching. Double thanks for hitting the like button. Seriously, guys, I totally appreciate you. I'll see you on the next one.